Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Authors Guild webinar with Intisar Khanani, 4 strategies to gain early reviews and build buzz. Now, before I hand it off to Intisar, I just want to go through a few housekeeping things on how to use this webinar platform. So we are here live with Intisar, and she will give, I guess, about 30 minutes or so of instruction about the topic. She will be answering questions throughout. So as she wraps up with one topic, she will go ahead and jump in and see if there's any questions about that and move on to the next. So as you're listening, if there's anything that you have a question about for Intisar, just go ahead and use that Q&A button. It should be on the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A. If you just go ahead and punch that button, you'll be able to type the question right there for her, and she will grab those as she's going. So before I turn it over, let me give you a little introduction. Intisar Khanani grew up a nomad and world traveler. She has lived in 5 different states, as well as jet on the coast of the Red Sea. I'm sorry, guys, I have a little bit of a cold. Fighting through that. Until recently, Intisar wrote grants and developed projects to address community health with the Cincinnati Health Department, which was as close as she could get to saving the world. Now she focuses her time on her 2 passions, raising her family and writing fantasy. Intisar's indie debut novel, Thorn, was picked up by Harper Teen and will be re-released in March 2020. In the meantime, she's hard at work on the remaining books of her epic fantasy series, The Sunbolt Chronicles. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today to talk about early reviews for, planning your new release can be kind of nerve-wracking. So early reviews are one aspect of that. So we're going to get started on my presentation here. Your book is coming out. Let's party. This is super exciting. And then you realize, wait a minute, what about super important thing here? What about pre-order promos, early reviews, building buzz, whatever that actually means, actual pre-orders, guest posts, podcasts, appearances, events, whatever it is. There are a lot of things that we think about as authors as we move forward with a book launch. And early reviews is just one part of that. It's what I'm going to be focusing on today. The first thing to do whenever you have a new book coming out, and this is, I've had 3 books come out, one of which is coming out again. You always have to take a deep breath. You finish the book and now a different sort of work is beginning. We are, as authors, we're also marketers in today's publishing world. And what you have to do, this is often for a lot of us a new path. We know how to write, we've developed our craft. Hopefully you've been doing some marketing along the side, but you really have to kick it into high gear with a book launch. And it can get overwhelming. So we want to take things one step at a time, do what you can, don't stress the rest. That holds true for everything I'm going to tell you today. If there is some aspect of, going after early reviews that's just not going to work for you, don't do it. Take your time. Today we're focusing on early reviews. And I know that the Authors Guild has done lots of other presentations and webinars on different aspects of promotion and publication. Every author and book is different. This is my caveat. Take what works for you, leave the rest. You have to know what works for you. You have to know what works for your target audience. If you are writing picture books, things might look a little different for you than if you're writing young adult or adult genre fantasy. And again, it'll look different if you're writing literary books. So I'm a young adult fantasy author. I am pulling on my experience as a genre author in the young adult market with an adult crossover appeal. So that is what I can speak to most effectively. If you have questions about other aspects, I might be able to help you, I might not, but just go ahead and use the Q&A as we go through. So the first question is, why should you plan for early reviews? And for some of you, this is something you've thought about before, but for anyone who's new to the game, early reviews do a lot for new books. They help readers decide fit, and that means your reader knows whether or not this book is actually going to work for you or not. And you don't want readers to buy a book they're going to hate, because then you're going to get your negative reviews. And because frankly, you're wasting their time and there's no benefit to anyone there. So early reviews help folks decide whether a book is a good fit for them. And that also helps populate your also bots on Amazon and on other retailers with similar books that are actually going to help people find you more easily or find your book more organically. The other things that we accomplish with early reviews, if we have bloggers, they may cross-post to their blogs. That means building buzz. And reviewers may also cross-post to Goodreads, and that builds more buzz. Especially, it's not just the review appearing on your book page in Goodreads, but it's showing up on different people, on reviewers' feeds and readers' feeds. And so people see each other's feeds, and it's a kind of almost a word of mouth mechanism. Reviews also offer kind of social or street cred to your book. So if you go to a new release and you look at it and there's 2 reviews and they're both 5-star, they're both like, oh, this is the best book ever, I love it, you should buy it, period. It doesn't tell me much. And other than that, not many people have read this, I don't really know what it's about, I'm gonna maybe look at that other book over there that has, 10 or 15 reviews, and I can get a better sense of what this book is about and if it is legitimately good or not. So it gives you a little bit of street cred. I'm going to share with you 4 strategies to get early reviews, and I'm going to give you a case study of what I did with my last release. I'm going to say up front here, I aimed for a lot of reviews with my release, and I don't think it's necessary. I think there was a time when retailers like Amazon, their algorithms really pushed new releases that got lots of reviews right away. And if you had a certain number of reviews, there was a magical number some years ago that was 50, then it kind of moved up. And if you hit that magical number, the algorithms kicked in and started showing your books to more people. It's a lot more complex now. There isn't a magical number that I can say. But what I would say is if you're looking for early reviews on a new release, somewhere between 20 and 30 is a good base number to go for. It allows you to go to promotional services, newsletter services, and say, look, actual readers have read my book and this is what they thought of it. Would you promote my book? I'm gonna, pay you, because no one does it out of the goodness of their heart, but you can hire services to do that if you've got a certain number of reviews. So we're gonna go over 4 different strategies. The first is to set up a mailing list for early reviewers or ARC reviewers. The second is to offer ARCs, and ARCs are advanced review copies. So these are early copies that you have of your book before actual publication or release. So offer ARCs to your launch team, use a legitimate review service, and solicit reader reviews. Now this all sounds in some ways very simple. I'm going to go through what I actually mean with each of these and how it would work. And as simple as they might seem, they can be extremely effective. And I'm going to go over, again, a case study with my own novel, so that you get a sense of kind of how each thing worked out for me and what could work out for you. So the first thing you want to do is build an early reviewer mailing list. I actually started my early reviewer mailing list 2 years before my next novel came out. So it's never too early. And what you're going to do is just share the sign up with your newsletter, with social media. If you don't have a newsletter, then stop everything and go set up a newsletter. It does not have to be really fancy. It doesn't have to come out every week. You can have a monthly newsletter. But as an author, I'm going to just say this once, you are a rock star. And when you have readers who want to hear from you, they want to hear from you, the rock star, and you have something to share. So be genuine in your newsletters, have a regular newsletter and build it up so that when you do have cool things releasing, you can share it. And in the meantime, you can talk about all the neat stuff that you're doing. Separate from that newsletter, you want to build an early reviewer mailing list. Set a goal for how many people you want on this. And there's going to be different ways to recruit early reviewers for your newsletter. One way is just through your newsletter and social media, and I'll talk about other ways later on in the presentation. What I did is I set a goal. I said before Memories of Ash review copies are ready, I want to have 80 people on my early reviewer mailing list. Does that mean 80 people want ARCs? No, because when you send out to your list, you know, a third of people are busy with life and they just can't take another review copy. You know, another group of people might ask for review copies, but they never get around to reading it. So review rates can vary from anywhere from 20% to 70% is what I've heard from author friends. This is not scientific. This is just kind of what I've heard on the street. The key thing with your early reviewer mailing list is you only contact people when you have a review copy available. This list is gold, and you're going to treat it like gold. So as you might only send out 2 or 3 notices for a review copy that's available. So a heads up, maybe when you do the cover reveal, saying, hey, I have this review copy coming, or even before that, if you're not doing a cover reveal, or if it's later on, you can say, I have this review copy coming. Let me know if you're interested. Then when the review copy is available, hey, the review copy is available. If you want it now, here's where you can download it. And then a final, like, in case you missed it. And that's really all you want to do with your mailing list. You don't want to be spamming people every week or every month with notices that these folks are gold. They've agreed to review your book. You want to treat them as if their time is special. How do you share an ARC? This is really important. You can send the files directly to readers or reviewers. I don't recommend this because then people have to go to their email, download the file, sideload it to their Kindle or to their Kobo reader, or they have to have set up a way to forward it electronically to their reader. There's a lot of steps involved. And if they have any problems with those steps, you provide the customer service, and you also have to maintain the security of what you're sending out. The other option is to use a distribution platform that specializes in this sort of thing. The one I'm most familiar with is called BookFunnel. I don't work for them. I don't get any kind of kickback for talking about them. They're just one. You can research and find other ones out there. And you know, you use BookFunnel, they will send out, you provide them with the emails of who wants a review. They send out a link, and people are able to directly download to their e-reader of choice. So that's just a little logistical information. So with Memories of Ash, my early reviewer mailing list, I guess I had about 100 reviewers. 75% requested an ARC. I used BookFunnel because it was easy, and if there were any problems, BookFunnel solved them. And I ended up having about 50 reviews posted in the first 3 weeks of release. So this was really effective for me. It took a long time frame up front, building up, gathering reviewers. But when it actually came to the release time, it was a very easy thing. So I definitely recommend this as an approach. I'm going to stop here and take a quick look and see what questions we have. Am I addressing this with relation to traditional or indie publishing? This is for both. So whether you are a traditionally published author or an indie published author, you are primarily the one responsible for getting reviews. Basically, if you have a traditional publisher, they're going to send it out to maybe Kirkus or the School Journal or something like that. But just your average reviews for review sites like Goodreads and Amazon is up to the author. What is an ARC? Oh, we got that covered. So how do you get around prohibitions on Facebook and other social media against directly asking for reviews? So I don't directly ask on Facebook. What I do is, and I'm going to go back here, I had a graphic that I made that said, join my early reviewer list. And all I'm asking folks to do on Facebook or social media is join a newsletter. that will offer them early reviews. Or early review copies, and that way Facebook doesn't get upset with you. No one gets upset with you. You're not breaking any rules, your regulations. You're not giving away things. You're not paying for reviews. You're not, there's nothing weird going on here. You're just gathering information using social media. So you just use social media as a sign-up source, not as an actual place to disperse reviews. Let's see, should you send your newsletter out like a blog via your author website or just as a PDF? Can you negotiate a set number of ARCs with your publisher via your agent? So I would use, for a newsletter, I would recommend using a newsletter service. Now you can, two that spring to mind that are relatively cost effective for new authors. So they have a lot of free subscribers that you can have, are MailChimp and MailerLite. They're relatively similar. Definitely kind of look at their tiers of payment once you reach the threshold where you have to pay, and also look at their offerings, make sure it's the right service for you. But I would use a service so that you can design basically pretty emails, schedule them to send out when you want them to send, and they're going specifically to emails. People don't, not everyone follows a blog. If you have someone's email address, you have direct access to them. And that's really important. You can actually do direct touch. You're not dependent on anything else, and not dependent on them coming to look at your blog or remembering to check their blog feed. Can you negotiate a set number of ARCs with your publisher or via your agent? I would definitely recommend talking to them about that. I know I did it with my agent. Is an ARC always electronic rather than a print book? No. If you're an indie publisher, you're probably going to do mostly ebooks. If you are traditionally published, you'll have a mix. So I actually had print galleys that my publisher sent me, but I also sent them my early reviewer list. I actually pulled the early reviewer list, found out who was interested in getting an ARC of my new book coming out from Harper-Teen. And then I sent that list to Harper-Teen, and they released the e-galleys to my reviewer list, because they were really excited about the possibility that we could, maybe get 100 reviews going early on in the life of the book. So definitely talk to your publisher. If you're being traditionally published, they will probably be pretty excited that you can have a framework set up to gain early reviews. Okay, let's see. Once the book is published on Amazon, but it hasn't been discovered yet, is it too late to offer review copies? It is never too late to offer review copies. People are often interested in undiscovered authors. I would go ahead and keep looking and offering those things. And I know sometimes I've had people actually request review copies when they join my list of books that were published, a few years ago, but they still want a review copy. So I would go for it. Let's see. So can I clarify what I include as indie publishers? So indie publishing, that is a little more complex. So indie publishing, what I mean primarily is when you publish your own book yourself. There's also small press publishing. A lot of small presses function a lot like indie authors, except that they're a collective, or they're helping smaller name authors to get their books out there. With small press, this is going to be equally important. They don't have the big marketing teams to help you reach out to new bloggers and so forth. So you're going to want to do this as well. And for traditional publishing, I think I already covered that you want to everyone needs reviews. We all need reviews. Let's see. Is it better to send reviewers paperback or ebook? I have both. I would always send, if you have the choice, send what the reviewer most wants. I tend to send ebooks to everyone except folks who are going to do Instagram, Bookstagram posts, because then that pretty picture aspect builds more buzz and gets more eyes on the book. But sending paperbacks is more expensive. So you have to think about what's cost effective for you. There's definitely readers who need physical books in order to be able to read and review, and that's up to you to figure out how to approach that. Let's see. I think, how do you make your list of potential reviewers? What kind of person was on that list? How did you find them? Okay, so, and then what info do you ask for your reviewer list? So the only information I ask for my reviewer list is a first name, an email, and a link to where they usually post their reviews. I ask for the first name so that I know who I'm talking to. I don't ask for a last name because I don't need it, and I don't want people, anytime you ask for a field of information with a sign up, people are going to wonder why you need it and what you're going to do with it. So don't ask for more than you need. You do not need someone's birthday. You don't need to know where they live. If someone asked me what my birthday was for a newsletter sign up, it wouldn't matter if they were going to send me a bonus free gift on my birthday. I would not give them my email because I would be concerned about the way it would be used. So you want to just ask for the base minimum. I ask for first name, I ask for email, and I ask for a link for where they post their reviews, so that I have an idea of like how legitimate they are as a reviewer. And I've definitely had people post or submit as a reviewer, and I look at them and it's abundantly clear that they're really just looking for free reads. They're not, they don't have that many reviews up on their Goodreads profile. They don't have a blog. They don't post anywhere else. They don't do anything else. And I think it's up to each of us whether or not we keep them on our list. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but it helps you to assess who you're dealing with. How do you make a list of potential reviewers? I'll get into that a little further. I know that some of us we're new on social media. If you're new on social media, set up your author social media things, your Facebook author profile, your Twitter author profile. I mean, it's a Twitter profile, but keep it separate from your personal. And I think the thing about social media is remembering that it's about being social. It's about building rapport with people and engaging with them, and it's not about just promoting yourself. And as you engage with other authors and other readers out there and build relationships, that's where people will start responding to the occasional post about, hey, I have an early reviewer list. Would you like to join it? I also, we get a little further down in the presentation. You'll see some other things that I do and how I include my early reviewer mailing list sign up in those things, and that helps to build forward. It does take time. I think when I started, I had no early reviewers. It took me 2 years to get to 30 or 40 early reviewers, and then I started other promotional efforts started building buzz about my new release, and that's when I really started seeing more people signing up. So it is cyclical. It takes time. Don't get discouraged. Just keep working at it. I am going to, at this point, move ahead with the presentation, and then I'll come back to more questions later because I don't want to run out of time. So let's move back to offer ARCs to your launch team. And I said, wait, I have a launch team? What are you talking about? I don't have a launch team. The first thing here to say is that it's only viable if you already have dedicated readers you can draw on. So if you have 2 or 3 books out, you have, an active Facebook author page, you have a newsletter, and you can draw on that, then this is viable. If you do not, don't despair. Take your time, you will get there. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this actually is, and then we'll move on to things that are more useful for new authors. So if you're a newer author, just kick back, relax, listen up, and then we'll get to more in a minute. So a launch team is very different from a street team, or what some people call a scream team. Street teams are usually set up as a group that is constantly kind of hitting the streets, either online or at events. And they're talking up your book. They're really excited. They're about you. They're excited about what you do. And they're constantly on. They're really hard to maintain as an author and even as a participant, because it's kind of an ongoing thing. It can be really cool. There are people who do amazing jobs at this. If you are a social media pro, you might be able to pull this off very easily. Personally, I can't maintain that. So I have a launch team. A launch team is pretty quiet between releases. They get, you kind of reach out to, you might keep minimum contact going every now and then, talk about books, share something fun, but you really only start working together when you have a new release coming out. And what they do is the same thing a street team does, only just around the new release. So they're excited about your book, they're sharing about it on social media, they're coming out to Facebook parties, they are joining Twitter chats, they are telling all their friends and their best friend's dog about your book. Similar to your early reviewer list, you recruit them via newsletter and social media. You just post about how you have this cool new launch team you're starting. Would anyone like to join? And you plan fun stuff together for the release. These people are your super fans, so you make them feel special. Anytime I travel, I let my launch team know where I'm going, and if someone lives there, I meet up with them and we have a hot chocolate together, and we it's exciting for me to meet them, and it lets them know that I value them and I value what they do for me in return. So do special things with them. So the Shadow League is my launch team. I named it off of a group that's in one of my books, so it's fun to name your launch team off of something that's relevant to what you write. I had a street team, about 8 members. It was miserable because I can't do street teams. I converted it to a launch team, and I had about an additional 30 some people join up. For Memories of Ash, nearly all my members requested an ARC when I posted that I had them available. And about 20 to 30 reviews were posted by these readers within 2 weeks. So that was a review rate of about 50 to 60%. Again, this will vary. It even just varies with time of year. If you're releasing in November, December, people have less time to read. So it was effective in terms of getting a certain number of additional reviews. What else do launch teams do? I think I've touched on this a little bit, but they blog about books, they'll share cover reveals, they can help plan Twitter chats and Facebook parties, they can help share those with their circles, so it's just kind of widening your social reach, because now you don't have just yourself, but you might have 8 or 10 or 30 other people who are also pulling in their circles to share about your book and what you're doing. They get exclusive teasers. They help me name characters when I'm stuck. These are the things that I do with them. When I need an emergency beta reader, I will go to this group sometimes and get help from them. And it helps build relationships that lets them know that they are special to me. And it's really a neat relationship to have, but it also bears fruit for the author. If you have enough existing readers to warrant starting a launch team, I would recommend going for it. If you're a debut or new author, don't worry. Build your newsletter, build your social media, be social on social media, and keep this in mind for your next release. So this is more of a long-term plan for you guys. I'm going to take a quick look at questions and answers again, if I can get it to pop up. Let's see. How much does your launch team overlap with your early reviewer list? I do have some overlap, not a lot. I maybe have 5 or 6 people who overlap with my early reviewer list, because a lot of my launch team folks are not necessarily professional bloggers. They're not bookstagrammers per se. They're just regular people who are really excited about what I write. So there's a little bit of overlap, not a lot. And I think it's okay. They sign up knowing that those things will overlap. But basically with the launch team, they're doing a lot more than just reading review copies. So, so I think that even if there's overlap, you don't have to worry about it too much. They'll self-select what works best for them. I think I covered fun stuff to do with the launch team. I already have a Goodreads profile from early book. I don't think I'll be able to answer the Goodreads profile question right here. I'm going to talk about NetGalley shortly, so hold on. Here we have, oops. So the next recommendation I have is to use a legitimate review service. This works best for standalones and series starters. I will talk about what legitimate means. But I want to start out by just saying when you use a review service, know that it works best for standalones and series starters. This is because a lot of people who you can access the review service are just going to review the book you offer. So if you're offering book 3 in a series, they may not read book 1 or book 2, and then you're going to get reviews that say things like, I don't understand why this happened, and this backstory made no sense to me. And that doesn't do you any favors or your series any favors. And again, it doesn't do the reviewer any favors to read a book that they're not geared to understand. So there are ways to approach later books in a series, but a review service is best for your series starters, your standalones. NetGalley, I found to be very useful. It, as with any review service, before you go to them, you have to make sure you have a professional book cover, you have a professional copy for description for your book. If you're traditionally published, you don't have to worry about this side of things. Your publisher will use NetGalley or Edelweiss or one of these review listing services. If you are a small press or you self-publish, you're indie published, that's when you want to go out and look at a place like NetGalley. Find a co-op to actually purchase directly from NetGalley the right to list your book there. It can be expensive. It can be more than you need to do. There are a lot of co-ops that exist where you can basically book a slot to list your book for a month. And that can be very effective. And then blog tours are not as effective as they used to be in terms of building buzz. They used to be really impressive. I think now it's just, there's a lot of stuff out there, and so people notice less. I think there's just more noise. But they're still effective when you're booking a blog tour if you ask for a certain number of review stops. And you want to discuss this with your tour operator before you actually book the blog tour. Now here's a bonus tip with your early reviewer list. Include a link in your ARCs encouraging reviewers to sign up for your early reviewer mailing list. So when I posted on NetGalley my book, at the end of my review copy, the first thing I said is, thanks so much for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in finding out about future releases and receiving future review copies, you can sign up for my early reviewer mailing list here. And then what you're doing is basically reaching out and giving people a chance who you might never have another chance to directly touch. You give them that chance to sign up for your review list. Now down here at the bottom, I've said never pay for reviews or use a service guaranteeing X number of reviews for Y dollars. So you might say, well, isn't that what NetGalley does? Well, NetGalley doesn't. They don't guarantee you're going to get a certain number of views. They just say, we'll list it. If reviewers are interested in your book, they'll pick it up and read it. The reviewers are not getting paid for the review. It's the service that's getting paid. The same thing with the blog tours. You are paying a blog tour operator. They do not pay the review stops to post reviews. Those are volunteers. So it's a very important distinction. If you are paying directly for reviews, you end up with pretty shady companies out there. And you may actually end up, if Amazon catches on to, hey, these reviewer profiles are all just spam bot reviews or whatever they are, you may end up getting in trouble with your distributors. And frankly, they're useless reviews. They rarely actually involve someone who read your book. So you don't want to go there. It's not necessarily legal, and it's shady, and it's not gonna help you. With Memories of Ash, it was a second book in a 2-book series, and what will be a 4-book series. At that point, there was only 2 books. I did not want to use NetGalley because, like I said, I wanted people to I want to make sure people had read book 1. So I signed up for 2 blog tours, and with each blog tour, with the review stops, I offered both books to the reviewers. So I received about 25 reviews over 2 tours. And that created a certain amount of buzz. Not all of those reviews cross-posted to Amazon or Goodreads, and that's important to be aware of. When you book a blog tour, people do not necessarily cross-post, and they didn't promise to when you booked your blog tour. They just promised to post a review on their blog. So it can be a little frustrating if you want that review to post to more places. The only option you really have is to ask your tour organizer to reach out to those folks and see if they'll cross-post. But a lot of them will cross-post. They know how valuable it is to authors, and they if they enjoyed your book especially, they'll want to share the word about it. So I'm going to stop here and take a quick look at questions again, if I can get it to pop up. A discussion of the ethics of paid for editorial reviews on Amazon. For example, Kirkus reviews, edit and manipulate their view and post it on Amazon without notice to consumer that is paid and edited. This is a good idea. A good idea for long-term health of traditional book criticism. Is it ethical? I think anytime you mess with a quote and you put up just the out of context little things that you want to and possibly make it say something it wasn't, that's unethical. I think you don't need me to tell you that. Kirkus reviews, there are differing opinions on how useful that actually is for independent and small press publishers. Kirkus reviews tend to be paid attention to by larger consumers of traditional publishing. And I don't want to overgeneralize here, but I mean is if you have library systems, if you have retail stores, they look at things like Kirkus reviews, and that helps influence to a certain extent their purchasing decisions. But your average reader doesn't seem to weight it too much more than they would any other review. As an indie, I've looked at paying for a Kirkus review, and it just didn't make sense in terms of the return. And again, I'm going to say that it's never a good idea to ethically mess with how you present your reviews. Let's see. Oh, I can't scroll. Sorry, my computer's being silly. All right, let's see. Could I clarify, find a co-op on NetGalley? Absolutely. So you can probably Google NetGalley co-op, and some options will come up. I know that Espresso Book Tours offers a NetGalley co-op. I know that certain organizations like SIFWA, Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, will offer their members a NetGalley co-op. I'm aware of them because I write fantasy. But basically, it's, there are organizations and also some book promotion services that will offer you the option of you pay, $40 or $60 and you get 1 month for your book to be listed on NetGalley. I hope that helps. NetGalley itself is basically an online distribution system for review copies. Sorry, I didn't clarify that. And there are literally tens of thousands of reviewers probably signed up on NetGalley who go in and they look at new titles being offered and they request the right to review them. And then the publisher, whether it's traditional, small press, or independent, decides whether or not they're going to disperse a review copy to that person. If you use a NetGalley co-op, a lot of times the person in charge will decide, the person in charge of that account will decide if they're going to disperse their review copy or not. So you want to find out how they handle that. What's a blog tour? How does it work? A blog tour is basically, you would look up an organizer, blog tour operator who works in your genre. And what they do is they have a list or a database of bloggers who post in your genre or in your neck of the woods. And these bloggers are interested in finding out about new books and showcasing and spotlighting new books, or even older books that they just haven't heard about before. And so it's an undiscovered author kind of thing. A blog tour then is when you book a certain number of stops with a blog tour operator, where each day your book or an interview with you, or something, a cover reveal, a guest post is featured on somebody else's blog, a book blog, and each day will be a different stop. So it's just a way of reaching readers and bookish people who might not be coming directly to your newsletter or to your website or to your book. It's just a way of kind of expanding your reach. Let's see here. Could you ask potential reviewers to cross-post within your newsletter? Absolutely. So usually when a book releases, if I have if I have a newsletter, or if I have my early reviewer list, when the book releases, I will send each of them an update. The newsletter will just be like, "Yay, new book!" And at the bottom, if you read this book and you enjoy it, I'd love it if you could post an honest review of what you thought at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, whatever your key platforms are, and just provide links right there. Make it easy. Everything is about making it easy for the people you work with. Easy deliverability of review copies, and easy ability to post. So same thing with your early reviewer list. When your book goes live, you send out a final notice saying, "Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. The book is now live. If you have a review or you wanted to share your thoughts, here are different places you can post your review. Thank you so much. Have a lovely life." Okay. My computer's doing it again. What is the best place to have reviews posted? If you only have reviews on one site, which is best? Ooh, that is rough. I don't think I could choose. I think my top two would be Amazon and Goodreads. Amazon, because it's monstrously huge, and there are a lot of readers on there. Goodreads, because it's also big and it has the potential to create word of mouth about books. And BookBub is growing, but I wouldn't make it a top choice. If you were trying to build a wide platform, meaning you're trying to reach this would be mostly for independent publishers. If you're trying to reach more than one distributor, you're not just on Amazon, then you want to make sure to include links to other distributors so that people on those sites see. What components are included in a good review? That's a great question. Basically, honest thoughts on your book. That's a good review. Anytime you have provided an arc to someone, you want them to make sure to state that they received a review copy in return for an honest review. That's really important, especially on Amazon. But in terms of what what creates a good review. I mean, I look for reviews that that would help people get what the book's about, that are gonna basically help people understand the book and know whether or not it's going to be a good fit for them. So I had a review that cracked me up because it talked about how one of my books had nothing to do with this other series. And I went, I think you thought I was that author, and I'm not. I didn't write the Thornbirds. It's a totally different epic, like totally different genre. It was a 1-star review. It made me happy because I knew that when people went and looked at the 1-star reviews, and basically what they saw was someone who was totally confused about what the book was supposed to be about, they'd go, ah, there's really, you know, if that's your negative, then we're fine. So what's included in a good review? Just, you know, thoughtful responses to the book, people who get excited about it, people who like it, people who have legitimate complaints but do it in a nice way. If you ever get a negative review, I hope I don't have to say this, but if you ever get a negative review, even if you feel it is incorrect, don't respond. I did not write to that reviewer and say, why would you think it has anything to do with the Thornbirds? You just don't, you just leave it alone. How do I find a legit blog tour? Google is your best friend. But what you want to do is look at, most blog tour agencies or organizers will list the blogs that they work with, and you want to go through and look at those, and you want to see if they're a good match for you or not. If you're really concerned or uncertain, you can ask them if they have any references of authors who've worked with them. Should you set up an author profile on Facebook before you have a book? And aside from joining Facebook writer groups, how can you get friends? I can't really talk to the getting friends thing. I think it's kind of out of the scope of where we are right now. Should you set up an author profile before you have a book? Absolutely. Don't expect to gain a lot of traction. You know, don't expect to have a lot of followers before your book comes out, but absolutely you want to start posting teasers. You want to, you know, do different things to start engaging and getting people interested, and realize that it's going to take time for there to actually be people who have you on their feed. All right, I'm going to try to move ahead here because I don't want to run out of time. So my 4th strategy is how to solicit reader reviews, or to solicit reader reviews, sorry. And this is something that small press and independently published authors can do pretty effectively. It is much harder for traditionally published authors because in traditional publishing, you cannot decide what's at the back matter of your book. And that's really the most effective way to do this. So what you do is after your book ends, just like we thanked our reviewers and our review copies here in our actual book that you've now released and it's going out into the wild, you request reviews at the end of your book. You say you're going to thank the reader and you make your case in 2 to 3 sentences, and you just say something. You know, you have to be genuine. It has to be your voice, but it's just something along the lines of, thanks so much for reading. I really hope you enjoyed it. As a small press author, as an independent author, you know, readers make all the difference in my ability to reach new people. If you enjoyed the book, I really hope you will share it. Share your thoughts in a review posted at the retailer where you bought this book. Something along those lines. Play with it. I actually tried 2 or 3 different versions before I found one where my organic reviews started inching up, and that was a sign that, okay, this is working. For Memories of Ash, I'd finally gotten my language down, and when the book released, within the first 2 weeks, I got 20 to 30 organic early reviews, just people who I have no other contact with. They picked up my book, they read it, they loved it, and they posted reviews. So we have a plan. We have 4 strategies, and you have to find what will work best for you. Again, some are more suited to traditional publishing, some are more suited to independent publishing. I want to go back here and say with soliciting reader reviews as a traditionally published author, you can still do this, but you're going to have to do it essentially via your newsletter and social media, where you're gonna write out your newsletter and as we talked about earlier, and say, I have a book, or my book is released. I hope you read it. I hope you enjoyed it. Here, I've been giving you teasers, blah, blah, blah. If you enjoyed it, I really appreciate it if you could, review it. And you, again, this is not the language you want to use, but this is the intent. Make your pitch. And again, keep it to 2 to 3 sentences. And a lot of readers, I mean, they're on your newsletter, they follow you on social media because they like what you do. And if you basically make the case to them that they have the power to do good for you, that you brought them joy, and they can do the same for you. And again, don't use that language. A lot of readers really appreciate that. They like feeling that they can help out an author whom they love. So it's really about finding a way to make that connection. So you can do that as a traditionally published author as well. You just don't get to do it at the end of your book. So those are the 4 strategies that we went over: setting up a mailing list for early reviewers, offering review copies to your launch team, using legitimate review service, and soliciting reader reviews. This might sound like a lot to do all together, and that's why you should not do it all together. Plan it forward. As you're looking at, 3 or 4 or 6 months up to your release, say, okay, I'm going to set up my mailing list for my reviewers, and once a month or twice a month, I'm going to talk about it on social media. Once you've got that set up, you can move on to the next thing. So kind of focus on one thing at a time. Once things start rolling, they can happen concurrently pretty easily, but you can do this. I am going to pull up questions and answers and see what else I can answer here. Okay. Are specialized blog tours better than general interest ones? If so, how do you find out about them? Absolutely. So the more you manage to find a blog tour that caters to your particular genre, the better you'll do. It just takes research. If you follow different book blogs, or if you know of book blogs that work with blog tour organizers, and you can tell from usually they'll have banners on their posts that'll say, cover reveal for whatever blog tour group. You can see where those are. You can go and look at them, and you can just Google blog tour organizer, young adult fantasy, science fiction. Sometimes you're not going to find too much, and it might just be that there isn't a big kind of blog tour presence in that particular genre. If you just do a wide general one, I think those tend to get lost in the noise. Let's see. I think we hit that one. Oh, this is a hard one. In children's literature, librarians are apparently good people to recommend your books. How do we reach librarians who usually gravitate toward traditional publishing? I don't know. If you could tell me, I'd appreciate it. I think it's a really, really challenging thing to do. I have found that really the only effective way for me has been to physically meet librarians, especially in local libraries, which is obviously not got much of reach. Great, Cincinnati now carries my books, but the rest of the United States does not. Librarians tend to focus on traditionally published books. There's gatekeepers, they know they're getting good quality books, all of that. The only other effective method I've found for getting books to the attention of librarians is to have readers who enjoy your books recommend it as a purchase to the library. So I do have, because I'm independently published, I can see which libraries have purchased Overdrive copies of my books, and I can see that library systems that I've never had anything to do with have purchased it, and I'm 90% certain that in those cases it was a reader request that got them to look up the book, look at the sample, and then decide to purchase it for their system. So as an independent, I mean, that's really the most effective other thing I found is to get people to request it. I wish I had a magical answer that would provide more insight. Do you recommend contacting podcasters for reviews? I don't know. I think you could try it out and see how it works. I haven't done it myself, so I can't speak to the effectiveness. Let's see. What are your thoughts about using events and book conferences to build review and or launch teams? I don't think that I will use events and book conferences to build review or launch teams. That doesn't mean they can't be effective. One of my most awesome super fans actually met at a conference, but I wasn't there hoping to recruit. I think that if you go to events or book conferences, you really need to think very carefully about what your goals are in going and how you would achieve them. I tend to find that for me, when I go to conference, the most effective way I want to reach readers. That's my goal. And the most effective way for me to do that is to be on panels where I can chat with other authors and people can get to know me and know my approach to writing and what I care about and what I do. And then that tends to draw people in who will then look at my books and maybe one day turn into a super fan. But I don't look at book conferences as a place to recruit people per se. Let's see. I think we did that one. Talked about NetGalley. Let's see. Let's see. I think that is, I think we're hitting on 2 o'clock. I think we better wrap it up here. Any of these other questions, if you can't find the answer, feel free to reach out to me by my website or social media and we can chat.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Intisar. Thank you everyone who joined us today as well. This has been a really great and informative session. It will be recorded and posted on our website, so you can view it there, but also all of you who registered, you'll get an email in the next few days with the recording as well, so that you can refer back to it for anything that you want to look over again or any part that you may have missed. So Intisar, thank you so much. This has been excellent. We're so grateful to have you, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.